All right, everyone, welcome in to the very first episode of the Who Dat Nation 4L for Life podcast. The first ever episode. This is exciting stuff. My name is Clay Johnson. I am the host. If you want to follow me on Twitter at ClayJ2K. For our first topic of this episode, we are going to go ahead and go over, the whole coaching fiasco that went on this off season so far. I mean, it's still ongoing to this point. Um, I mean, it's looking like we're going to zero in on Kellen Moore. Everyone at this point knows that already, so that's not groundbreaking stuff by any means. But yeah, I mean, just kind of like it's kind of crazy to think about the fact that we went from Aaron Glenn and Mike McCarthy being the front runners for this head coaching position. I mean, like everyone thought it, you know. It was coming out from all these different news sources. Uh, and then, as the process started ongoing, I mean, we knew from the jump that Aaron Glenn preferred the Jets. Maybe I'm crazy. It seemed like it was kind of neck and neck for the most part. And then, we get the report that the Jets weren't going to let him leave without a deal on his second visit. So, I mean, at that point, I had already counted him out because he preferred that job anyway. And then you find out that he got to hire his own GM anyway. Like that's ideal. That's awesome. That is not in any way is that a slight on the Saints. I think. I mean, if you tell me that I get to pick my boss at a job, even if I'm like making 50 cents less, and you're like, but you can make your friend the boss if you want. Y'all would basically run the shit together, matter of fact. I'd be like, yeah, I want that. Fuck the benefits, fuck all that. That's number one. That's awesome. Let's do this shit. You know what I mean? They had been probably dreaming up a roster that they would build together anyway. So not a slight on the Saints. Good for Aaron Glenn. I think he'll be. I don't know. It's still the Jets. That is a cursed franchise, in my opinion. So anyway, then to Mike McCarthy. I'm going to be honest. He was one of my favorites. I just like the fact that he was a winner. No matter where he went, he would win games. He would get them to the playoffs. What was the Saints? What has been happening the past 4 years? No playoffs. I thought that the Saints, excuse me, would prioritize that. I and I'm not even honestly going to act like I was like fully in their mindset when I was thinking that he was one of my top guys. I just, again, like I said, I thought it made sense. You want to win? Here's Mike McCarthy. Then you started to, I mean, at least if you're like me, I started to sort of pay attention to the fact that I want to say like they had already interviewed, I mean, obviously the first round, yeah, but they had already done 2 interviews with Kellen Moore and I want to say Anthony Weaver, possibly Kafka as well. But I want to say it was 3 coaches that they already did a second interview with before they had even interviewed Mike McCarthy. And it just didn't seem like it was actually picking up as much heat as the press wanted you to think that it was. And I guess around that time, I started. I mean, you know how we are as Saints fans. Like, at that point, I was already kind of talking myself into even like Kafka. Because I don't know. It just, the McCarthy thing was not picking up any sort of leeway at all. Before that, there was a report that came out that Joe Brady had dropped out of the race. In my opinion, I don't think Joe Brady was ready to be a head coach, just in general. And on top of that, I don't think the Saints would have been his kind of first head coach job if he could prefer one. You know what I mean? Um, I just don't think it added up in general. I guess that's kind of a slight on the Saints. A lot of people are saying because Aaron Glenn and Joe Brady had been in the building previously and that they're not even taking second interviews with you, that it's a bad thing. Maybe. I'm not going to say no, but I think you might be reading into it a little bit too much. Like we already said about Aaron Glenn, he basically got to pick his GM every time. Joe Brady wasn't ready to be a head coach. So there's that. I think that's more of a factor than anything. He was not ready to be a head coach. Ben Johnson wasn't ready to be a head coach last year, so he didn't take the Commander's job. And then it comes out that Mike McCarthy is dropping out of the head coaching race. Now, this is a PR stunt on his part. It's smart. It's smart. It's smart. It's smart. It's so smart to jump out in front of the press and say that you don't want this job before the Saints announced that they don't want you for the job, because it was coming to Mike McCarthy's attention that they were not really all that interested in him. They definitely wanted the interview, but they were not treating him like, we really want you to come here. So he dropped out, and that was smart. Like I said, smart. Good move on his part. Again, wanted him to be the coach. Totally get why you wouldn't want him to be the coach. And I mean, now that he's dropped out, again, Saints fan in me, I have convinced myself that I don't want him to be the head coach anyway. So I had done some previous thing on my Instagram page. Make sure you go follow that. All of the socials is WDN4L_pod, Twitter, Instagram, all that. Go for it. I'm not calling it X. Anyway, so I had done this series of my original coaching rankings as they were happening live. So let's go ahead and get into that. My number 7 coach was Anthony Weaver Jr., defensive coordinator, Dolphins. Keep in mind, this is all before. This was back a couple weeks ago. Things happen fast in the NFL. My thinking at the time, Ross Jackson, the GOAT, by the way, was really for Anthony Weaver, and so was John Hendricks. They were, very adamant that this guy was not only about culture. Culture was a big thing for him, but it was also a great defensive mind. And I'll have to take their word for it. I don't know the guy. I mean, I remember him playing in the league, but I didn't even know he was coaching. So number 7, completely based off other professionals' opinions who I respect. Number 6 was Cliff Kingsbury. I think I ended up jumping him up because I live in Virginia. I am around nothing but Commanders fans. For some reason, Virginia is actually all NFC East teams, just in general. And then you have Ravens, Steelers. Yeah, that's the most common around here. But it's literally like a fucking melting pot, dude. But anyway, mainly Commanders fans. My fiance's entire family, Commanders fans. So I was at their house watching the game with one of my best friends, Zach, who is a Commanders fan as well. And the type of show that Cliff Kingsbury put on. Now, let me clarify. When the Commanders played the Saints and Spencer Rattler almost beat them in one half of football, by the way, down 17, by the way, Cliff was kind of giving that game away. They were also missing their throws, but Cliff's play calls were not. But the Commanders versus the Lions NFC divisional round, Cliff put on a show, bro. And this is against Aaron Glenn, who I want to say the Lions were like top 10 defense even with all the injuries they had. Yeah, trust me, as a Saints fan, injuries. Yeah. Anyway, Cliff had put on a show. I think I ended up moving him up, but he's number 6. I think he was a good fit for the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. I don't necessarily think he would. I think he would, but I don't know if he would be consistent, him working with Spencer Rattler. Like, yes and no. You know what I mean? Great. He's a great coach. I think he can absolutely develop quarterbacks. We've seen it. I just don't know as a head coach if it would have ended up working out more than I thought about it. You know what I mean? I was very much hype after what was happening in that NFC Championship. Divisional round. So number 6 was Cliff Kingsbury. My number 5 coach was Joe Brady. And I literally have in my notes, don't think he's ready to be a head coach. I don't think he was ready to be a head coach. I think he is a great offensive mind, but he has no head coaching experience. None. He has none. High school? No. College? No. NFL? Hell no. He has no head coaching experience. He was not going to be the Saints head coach. It just wasn't. I cannot stress that enough. I put him 5 because of, I know all the LSU fans. Like, I know they all like this dude. And I think he is a good offensive mind. I do. He's not a head coach. No experience. He was not going to be the Saints head coach. Okay, so anyway, number 5 was Joe Brady. Number 4 in my original rankings, I ended up moving him up because I love the guy. But anyway, number 4 originally was Darren Rizzi. Underrated job what he did as the interim head coach for the Saints this past year. Underrated because still only won like 3 games. It's just what he was working with. Winning those 3 games, like, at least he beat the Falcons. He is 1-0 as the Saints head coach against the Falcons. He will always be goated for that. I love Darren Rizzi. Like, it's as of right now, he is still in the running, technically. Probably their number 2 option. It's all dependent on if Kellen Moore wants the job. The Saints have basically said Kellen Moore is the guy, right? And he has basically said he's down to do it. There's a verbal agreement. They can't do anything because he's still about to coach in the Super Bowl. So, Darren Rizzi is still in it as of right now. Do I prefer Darren Rizzi over Kellen Moore? No. But I digress. I love Darren Rizzi. I love his attitude. He is a CEO type head coach. I think the Saints could use that in a way. Again, still prefer Kellen Moore. Love Darren Rizzi. He was originally number 4. Number 3, and I guess I am cracked out of my mind. I have not seen it anywhere for any other team that was going through the head coaching process. I didn't see this guy. Maybe I'm crazy. But this is my number 3, Brian Flores. I think, and this is me. I think Tua might be a little bit dramatic. And I think it might have hurt Brian Flores' chances at ever being a head coach. Plus, he is technically suing the NFL right now. I thought that would have been perfect for the Saints head coach, if you ask me. But defensively, this dude is great. Great defensive mind. The blitzes that he sends, he is down quarterbacks' throats, paws, all the fucking time. I love it. I think he would have been a great head coach. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That is kind of anticlimactic for number 3. I ended up moving Darren Rizzi above him, so I just want to clarify that. But anyway, number 2 in my original rankings was Mike McCarthy. Winner, chicken dinner, because he's a big guy. Just kidding. But won a Super Bowl with the Packers. Tended to get them to the playoffs. Cowboys had the number 1 offense in the league at one point with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. Just saying. Got Dak playing at an MVP level that year. I like the idea of Mike McCarthy in the sense of I thought he could get the Saints wins and get us back to the playoffs. And honestly, that's where the bar is set at this point as far as like that would make me happy. Just get back to the fucking playoffs. Jesus. Number 1 was Aaron Glenn. I feel like I really feel like I shouldn't like have to sit here and explain the Aaron Glenn one. I feel like that's sort of obvious. He was here before. He's been proven to be a good defensive coach. It made sense. I liked Aaron Glenn. Everyone liked Aaron Glenn. Everyone wanted Aaron Glenn. That's fine. He went to the Jets. I've already talked about it. Anyway. So, where we're at now is it has now come down to Darren Rizzi, Mike Kafka, Anthony Weaver Jr., and the real winner, Kellen Moore. It's going to be Kellen Moore, but it's come down to these 4. You know how I feel about Rizzi. Kafka wasn't initially on my list. I still don't. I'm glad he's not. I'm good. I'm good off of it. Let someone else experiment with that. You know what I mean? Weaver, he was on my list. Ross Jackson, I'm sure, would be happy that he made it to the final cuts, basically. It's not going to be him. But he will be a great coach one day. And Kellen Moore, who is going to be the head coach. Love it, love it, love it. It's perfect. I love it. I can't wait to see who he brings in as coordinators, truly. We know for a fact the front office loves Spencer Rattler. That's come out. It's not hard to imagine that they would. You know what I mean? Like, so the front office loves Spencer Rattler. I don't know if Kellen Moore is like, because I know that the thing came out that Kellen Moore was not really pleased with the Saints quarterback room. Who would be? Your starter's Derek Carr. I don't know how Kellen Moore feels about Spencer Rattler. I don't see why he would dislike him. He definitely doesn't hurt anything being there right now. I love Spencer Rattler. I think he's the guy. That's just me. I'll get into that later. All right, so for this next segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about the draft. I fucking love the draft. I always have. Ever since I was a kid, I have loved the draft. I mean, first of all, you can ask anyone growing up when they would sleep over at my house. The TV in my room stayed on NFL Network year-round. Didn't matter. Like, honestly, to God, I think I lost the remote because I would just walk in, press, on the back of the TV, NFL Network. Anyway, there was no need to change the channel up there. Like, no reason at all. Yeah, so I've always loved the draft. I do, like, mocks all the damn time. It's Mock Draft Monday, actually, so we will get into that, trust me. But for right now, we're just going to talk about, like, what I would do strategy-wise as far as what the Saints should do in the draft. So, I think you just, above all else, you need a playmaker. And everyone's like, I mean, obviously you need O-line, you need this, you need D-line, you need that. Yes. There are no wrong answers. You need it all. It's kind of like the beauty and the bad thing of the situation that the Saints roster is in. There really are no wrong answers. I personally think it would be a waste to spend a top 10 pick on a O-lineman because odds are they're going to be an interior O-lineman. I think that would be a waste. That's just me. If the Saints truly think that's what's going to, solidify that O-line, then by all means, brother. But if it were me, I would go for a playmaker. I don't give a fuck. If it's a tight end, I mean, that would be kind of crazy, but if it's a tight end, if it's a wide receiver, if it's a running back, playmaker. We need a playmaker. Okay? That's what the Saints need, is a playmaker. So, with that being said, here are some of my favorite possible playmakers for them to draft at 9. And yes, these are all possible. technically. Tetairoa McMillan reminds me of Michael Thomas. I'm not even kidding. Possibly more explosive, though. Probably more explosive. But, still not like crazy. Definitely not fast. You know what I mean? Doesn't need to be. But I think he has just a little bit more explosivity than Michael Thomas did. But maybe not, because Michael Thomas was disgusting. So, anyway, he just reminds me of Michael Thomas. Ashton Jeanty. There's no need to explain a 2,000-yard rusher in college football. Harold Fannin Jr., Caleb Johnson, Trey Harris. Those are just some playmakers. I don't necessarily think that like Harold Fannin should get taken to 9, but point being is like those are some playmakers you can end up targeting. Now I know y'all want to talk about the trenches, or at least we're going to talk about the trenches. Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. I love his versatility. Technically, he played tackle. I think you put him at left guard. You know what I mean? I think most of these guys that I'm about to mention, you put at left guard, if I'm being completely honest. Will Campbell, obviously, that is one that you could take in 9. I think it's a waste. But, like I said, Emory Jones and Emory Jones out of LSU, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. I think you put those guys at left guard. So some wide receivers that I've had my eye on, like I said, Tetairoa McMillan, Arizona, Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, Pat Bryant, Illinois, Nick Nash, San Jose State, Zachary Franklin, Illinois. I like them Illinois receivers. I want to say Zachary Franklin was on Ole Miss at one point. Trey Harris, Ole Miss. I'm an Ole Miss fan, so there might be a tad bit of bias towards some of their players. Like Prince Emmanuel in the second round, give me that. Give me that every time. Give me that. Anyway, as far as tight ends go, I really only love Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green, and Elijah Arroyo, Miami. Those are really the only ones that I love. I think the dude out of Texas, Gunnar Helm, and Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, I think they're good, but I don't love them. Running backs, Ashton Jeanty, Boise State, Caleb Johnson, Iowa. Caleb Johnson in the second round would also be chef's kiss. Ollie Gordon, I've gotten him as late as like the 4th round. This class is so deep. Yeah, Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State, dog. Quinshon Judkins, again, Ole Miss fan, so it's kind of like we're just whatever. Doesn't matter. My luck, the Saints will draft him, and I would just completely switch up every piece of trash that I've ever talked about as soon as he's on the Saints. Because when he was on Ole Miss, I was up his ass. You know what I mean? In a good way. Pause, though. Anyway, Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State. I really like this kid, Jaden Blue, out of Texas, as like a late, like 7th round flyer pick. I like his skill set. I do. As far as corners go, I really only love Will Johnson from Michigan and Denzel Burke from Ohio State. I like the other Ohio State corner because he was at Ole Miss at one point, Igbinosun. I still gotta dive a little bit deeper into the corners. I'm not gonna lie. I think the Saints could use a corner, especially if they don't get Paulson Adebo back. But I mean, I'm really only in love with Will Johnson and Denzel Burke as of right now. All right, so it's Mock Draft Monday. Mock Draft Monday. This podcast is a work in progress. All right, so Mock Draft Monday. It's going to be a segment I do every Monday. Obviously, it's in the name. Mock Draft, where I talk about my mock drafts that I've done. because I do them all the fucking time. In this first mock draft that I have right here, because I am a genius, okay? I think of everything. In this first mock draft that I have right here, with the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Malachi Starks, safety, Georgia. Malachi Starks is disgusting. Is safety like top priority? Honestly, I don't know why I said honestly like that. Not necessarily, but I think you could. Again, no wrong answers. Malachi Starks might possibly just be the best player available at 9, and that's fine. Take him. He will absolutely help your defense immediately. Love Malachi Starks. I'm only going to do a little ESPN joint for the first picks. But anyway, at pick 40, I got Trey Harris, playmaker. Need that. At pick 73, I got Quinshon Judkins. At pick 93, I got Elijah Arroyo. So, playmakers, 3 rounds in a row. Help Spencer Rattler out, if that lets you know where I have my allegiances as far as quarterback moving forward goes. Help Spencer Rattler out. He's going to need more playmakers, especially big body ones. Trey Harris, Elijah Arroyo, perfect. Get Quinshon in there to, bust some people up and then let AK get the shaking. That'd be great. At 111, Jared Ivey. And some of these I made trades. I'm like unmedicated right now, so I forgot to put exactly where I made the trades. But if the picks aren't adding up, just that's where the trade was. Unmedicated. 111, I got Jared Ivey, defensive end, sorta. He's like a tweener. Ole Miss. He is someone that could definitely change. Again, biased, but I watched it all year. He could definitely change your defensive line in a very good way. He kind of reminds me of Cam Jordan, if I'm being completely honest. I know that's a big comparison, but I'm being serious. At 135, I want to say this is one of the trades. Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle, Oregon, run stuffer. You need it. At 144, Smail Mondon Jr., linebacker, Georgia. I've seen some clips of him at the Senior Bowl covering running backs. That's big, and I think the Saints could absolutely use that, especially as Demario Davis. Ageless wonder that he is aging. You know what I mean? At some point, and you kind of already see it a tiny bit. I know there are people out there that are kind of in denial about it. You sort of kind of see it a little bit already of him slowing down. Still probably definitely the second best free agent signing ever in New Orleans history behind Drew Brees. Point being, Smail Mondon Jr. gives you someone that can cover. Pete Werner's a beast, we know, but you need more than just Pete Werner. 186, listen to this dude's name. Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle, South Carolina. If that's not an all-pro defensive tackle, I don't know what is. Tonka Hemingway? Bro, definitely all-pro name in this freaking draft class. I love that. 226, Yaya Black, defensive tackle, Iowa. I know that this second half of this draft is very, very defensive line heavy. You need it. Take as many defensive linemen as you fucking want, dude. You need it. 233, Zachary Franklin, wide receiver, Illinois. I think that's great value at that point. And then 249, defensive end out of LSU, Savion Jones. 7th round pick, whatever. So with that one, we got a best player available in Malachi Starks. Love that. We got a couple playmakers in Trey Harris, Elijah Arroyo. We're going to count Quinshawn as a playmaker, and Zachary Franklin. And then just straight beefed up the D-line. And I know there was no O-line picks on here. Maybe you just, with this one, you're attacking O-line and free agency and as like bridge players once again. And hopefully they do better than Lucas Patrick. So then we'll move on to the second mock. This other one that I did at pick 9. With the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Mason Graham, defensive tackle, Michigan. Need I say more? He would plug up the fucking middle, put him with Brian Brzee. You have a legit tandem at defensive tackle, and that's not even counting Colin Saunders and Nathan Shepard, possibly. I don't know how I feel about Shepard, but for sure Colin Saunders coming and rotating in and whatnot, that would be a great pick. And then at 42, I grabbed Princely Umanmielen. Oh, I traded back 2 spots, and you'll see what I did. I traded back 2 spots and still got Princely Umanmielen. Mason Graham and Princely Umanmielen, you basically immediately have a brand new defensive line that actually has upside for once. I can't even say enough about Princely Umanmielen. He's going to be a fucking beast. At 71, I got Savion Williams, wide receiver, technically, TCU. You can line him up at running back. I've seen it. It works. This dude is an athletic freak. 6'5"? I think he's at 6'4", 6'5". Get him. That right there in the 3rd round as your big body receiver that can also like line up elsewhere. Like, it's perfect for the Saints. I love that pick, especially in the 3rd round. At 92, this was what I ended up getting for moving back to 42. At 92, Lathan Ransom. First of all, great last name, especially considering he's a safety out of Ohio State. You need safeties. You need DBs. You need them. I can't. You do. Then at 93, so I ended up having back-to-back picks because of that trade back to 42. At 93, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. Plug him in at left guard. Let's get the shit rolling. At 111, Davison Igbinosun, corner, Ohio State. He originally started at Ole Miss, just saying. Another physical corner, you can definitely use that, even if he isn't your number one. I think there's definitely no point in giving up or not giving up. I personally liked what I saw from Kool-Aid for the most part. I think there was times where he wasn't like, I wouldn't say taking plays off, but he was kind of jogging at times. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. But I like Kool-Aid, point being. I think Alante needs to stay in the slot. So what I'm drafting is an outside corner. Alante needs to go back to playing in the slot. I'm sorry. Dennis Allen fucked his head up, basically. He's a slot corner now, and that's fine. He was good at it. Let him play the slot. At 126, Ollie Gordon. Bro. At 126, Ollie Gordon to go with Alvin Kamara and hopefully Kendra Miller? Bro. I kind of went crazy on this mock. And then to round it all out at 249, I know that's a big gap. I must have traded up because I saw Ollie Gordon falling. That's probably what happened, which is fine. Worth. At 249, Andrew Armstrong, wide receiver, Arkansas. Just another receiver to add to the room. He's not like big, but he's not small. You know what I mean? Kind of like Bub Means. I like Bub Means. And then I did a third mock. I think I only did 4 rounds. I only did 4 rounds for this. No, I only did 3. I only did 3 rounds for this. I just wanted to do one real quick. Because at this one, at pick 9, I got Ashton Jeanty. Kellen Moore, Boise State. Ashton Jeanty, Boise State. Need I say more? What did Kellen Moore just do with Saquon Barkley? They're in the Super Bowl. Is Ashton Jeanty Saquon Barkley? No, but you never know. You never know. He was a 2,000-yard rusher. That's all I know. Get him in the offense. That is an absolute playmaker. Pair him with Alvin Kamara, bro. Oh, my God. Just take all the pressure off Spencer Rattler, basically. That would be beautiful. And then in this mock, all the way at 40, he slid all the way down. I would cry if this happened. I would shit a chicken. Pick 40, Nick Emanwari, safety out of South Carolina. It reminds me of Cam Chancellor. So, disgusting. I'm not surprised if he gets drafted in the first round. That's why I was saying, like, it's crazy that he fell to me at 40. 71, Donovan Izaraku, defensive end, Boston College. I've heard great things about him. I would have to double check his numbers, but as long as he gets sacks. 93, Gray Zabel. Already talked about him. Plug him in at left guard. But I just wanted to talk about that one because Ashton Jeanty and managing to get Emanwari all the way down at freaking 40. I've seen some with him going to the top 15. So, anyway. All right, so I don't know if y'all noticed, but in those mocks, every single one of them, and for the most part, every single one of the ones I do, every now and then I'll draft Jackson Dart, but there's no quarterbacks in them. If I was going to take a quarterback, I would take one at the end of the draft to be a backup quarterback. Because I'm telling you right now, Spencer Rattler is the quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints. I am standing on that. The way that this kid performed in the situations that he was thrown into, the confidence that he still has and shows every single day, I love this kid. I understand he had however many fumbles it was and 5 picks to only 4 touchdowns. Fuck the numbers. What did Mickey Loomis say? You got to look beyond the results sometimes, right? Yes, he didn't win a single game. And I am just digging the hole deeper and deeper as I go right now. I love Spencer Rattler. He showed so much promise. There's some amazing throws that I don't even think Derek Carr can make that this kid made. He already has better pocket mobility and awareness, in my opinion, than Derek Carr. Does Derek Carr not take as many sacks? Obviously, but he's a vet. He's been in the league for over 10 years. Yes. Spencer Rattler, rookie. 5th round rookie. By the way. I love the confidence that he has, and I think that is absolutely something to build on. I truly do. The poise that he showed, and this isn't stressed, or this isn't there isn't a better example for this than the Commanders game. Came in down 17-0 after not getting the starting job, by the way. Came in down 17-0. All this kid does, I understand, they weren't touchdowns. All this kid does is put points on the board. All of a sudden, it's 17 to... No, it was 20 to 13. All of a sudden, it's 20 to 13. Spencer Rattler comes in, a little over 2 minutes on the clock. Boom, 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 boom. Completion after completion, bro. Walking down the field like it ain't shit. Because of the confidence that he has. He did not look scared. He did not look scared. Walked it all the way down. 0's on the clock. Game tying touchdown. They ended up going for 2, which, why not? I'm not against that at that point. They ended up trying to go for 2. I mean, as y'all all know, they ended up trying to go for 2. They didn't get it. some people are dumb and are trying to say, because what ended up happening is Juwan Johnson runs this sort of little arrow route and Spencer Rattler is rolling out. He really only has one person to throw to. I don't know why Clint Kubiak made this call, but anyway, rolling out to the right, Juwan Johnson does an arrow route. Kevin Austin Jr. is kind of running a bit of like a clear out, even though you're only however many yards away. And he kind of ends up doing a post, and it appears that he's open in the back. That was never a realistic option. Spencer Rattler wasn't even supposed to look at him. Clint Kubiak called a shut down an entire half of the field and only throw it to one person kind of play on that. Whatever. It was a perfect ball. Juwan Johnson should have caught it. He didn't. Point being, Saints lost because of it. Whatever. In that moment, to me, like what that showed to me, because obviously Spencer Rattler had started 3 games before that. He went 0-3 against the Bucks. He came out swinging and he looked really good in his first start up until the second half when Todd Boyles, just being a veteran defensive play caller, he called veteran defensive play calls and it fucked Spencer Rattler's head up, which is to be expected. It's his first start and he was a 5th round pick and he didn't have a starting O-line. That's, you know what I mean? Like, and Chris Olave got hurt within like 3 plays or something like that. So you're down to only Rashid Shaheed. I don't think Rashid Shaheed even finished that game. So then you're down to Bud Means as your number 1 receiver. It wasn't a recipe for success. So they ended up losing by like 30 points. But it's hard for me to blame that on Spence. You know what I mean? The other 2 starts didn't look that good. The Broncos, I mean, the Saints in general just couldn't generate offense at all. So I don't know if I want to fully blame that on Spence, but I will say the Chargers game, like, same thing happened. I just don't think Clint and Spence were meshing well as play caller quarterback at that point. So then, Derek Carr comes back. Saints still lose games. And then the Commanders game happens after Derek Carr thinks he's Superman. I can't stand him, dude. I can't stand Derek Carr. I really hope he's not on the team next year. Oh, I can't stand him. Anyway, Commanders game. They give the nod to Jake Haener in the spirit of everyone gets a chance. Jake Haener isn't. He's okay. he's. I wouldn't even have him as a backup, in my opinion. Anyway, give him a chance. He's terrible. Spencer Rattler comes in, like I said, down 17-0. All he does is end up almost winning the game. I know the Packers game was next, and the Saints can generate offense. He showed a lot of flashes that game. There was 2 absolutely insane throws that he made, and one of them, and then a third little jump pass joint. I remember watching that like live, and I saw him do the jump pass, and I was like, this kid is fucking disgusting. Oh my God. And then the very next play, he throws a pick, and I was like, yeah, but I feel like that's like Saints stuff. Like, that's not even just Spencer Rattler. Like, that is Saints-esque. That is some shit that just happens to the Saints. Like, that's just what it is. I still think he showed a lot of flashes, and I like that Darren Rizzi let him play the entire game. Raiders, they had the big splash play with the flea flicker joint. That showed off his arm strength. In fact, to start that game, dude, I want to say for the first half, he only had like 2 incompletions and a touchdown. He looked disgusting. But for some reason, Saints just couldn't score touchdowns. And then second half adjustments. It seems like the Saints just, in general, and this is why it's hard for me to blame Spence. It just seems like the Saints in general have issues adjusting to the second half. I I needed all of that to go away, and if that includes Darren Rizzi, then by all means. But um, and then the Bucks. Again, first half looked great. The Saints were actually winning in a game we had no business. Like we had a fourth string running back. Um, I mean, again, second half, same shit, same story, different week. But again, I don't know if I want to blame Spence for that or if it's a mixture of Spence and Clint Kubiak. Point being, no one adjusted ever. But I guess wrapping up my defense of Spencer is 5th round pick, totally the third string. He suits up, but he's the emergency third string every single week, leading up to all of a sudden just being the starter after not practicing with the first team because you're told you're the third string. And the third string doesn't practice with the starters. The second string might get like a rep or something. I think it's like a drive. The second team gets a rep or a shit with the starters. That's all I know. A shit with the starters. Third team doesn't. Gets thrown in there and doesn't look terrible at first. In fact, he looked kind of decent. You got him on the run. He's making some passes. You're like, oh shit, it's Spencer Rattler. And then just keep all these slew of injuries. So by the time he's starting his third game against the damn Chargers, I think he did have Olave, but he only had him for like 2 plays once again. Then your number one receiver is Bub Means until he gets hurt. He might have been hurt that game, actually. You have your third string center, your third string left guard, your third string right guard, technically because of all the moving around that you had to do. I shit you not, at one point the Saints center was a dude they signed off the street and started. What quarterback is going to succeed in those, especially a 5th round rookie? Like, the fact that he just didn't completely fold under pressure and just like crumble and ball up and cry, like, he has shown me the poise, the confidence, the intangibles. He's got a good arm. He makes great reads at times, but he's a rookie. He will have time to make better or learn how to make better reads. I love Spencer Rattler. I think he is the future at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And I'm willing to live and die by that. So, to close out the show, I just wanted to, thank everyone that has come to sit down and listen or watch this, however you're taking this in, for the first ever episode of the WDN4L or Who Dat Nation for Life pod. This is just something that I've always wanted to do my entire life. And my grandpa was actually a radio host for his entire life. He owned his own radio station down in Mississippi. He did color commentary for Ole Miss. He had his own, it was country music, and he loved being there. He was there all the time. He loved work. And that's just something that I eventually want to turn, that right now is just a hobby, but I would love to turn this into something like that. I'm very passionate about the Saints. So obviously my family was all Ole Miss fans. So when I was a little kid, we went to an Ole Miss LSU game, and Deuce McAllister jumped over the line to score a touchdown against LSU. I don't have enough of a memory of it because I was only like 3 to know if it was like a significant touchdown by any means as far as the win or loss went. But I do know that happened, and ever since then I was like obsessed with Deuce McAllister. He gets drafted by the Saints. My grandpa gets me his jersey. First ever NFL jersey I owned was a Saints jersey, Deuce McAllister. Been a fan ever since. So yeah, I've been through the mud with y'all. Not nearly as bad as the fans that started in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and whatnot. I get that. But I have been through the mud from when the Saints were ass. So yeah, I've always loved the Saints, and it's just one thing that I'm very, very passionate about. I'm very passionate about them, my family. I have a beautiful fiance. We're getting married in June. She is my inspiration. She's my rock. She's what even got me to this point and is going to help me take this further and further. I have a daughter. I'm not going to give out my kids' names for obvious reasons, but I have a daughter. She's a year and a half at this point. Absolute love of my life. She's the reason I get up every day. You know what I mean? We just had my son. He's about 3 months now. So yeah, we're rocking with the 2 under 2 because we're just crazy like that. My wife actually, or fiance, I just getting used to saying wife, actually just called me. That's funny. She said she hadn't heard from me in an hour and was concerned because she couldn't see on the Ring camera. I had to use the Ring camera little brick to plug my Ring light into. Funny enough, so that's funny as shit. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone that you know tuned in today, and let's see where we can take this because I'm ready. Seriously, I'm ready for this. This is everything I've been dreaming of. Love y'all, man. Thank you.